The siege of Viridian was repelled, but the victory was purely physical. Within the obsidian walls of the citadel, the true war raged, the war for the soul of the Shadow Queen. The vast chambers felt suffocating, every shadow heavy with the pressure of the obsidian heart, which pulsed faintly within the raven-haired woman's armor, its energy an ever-present, demanding beat against her own. The cost of the recent battle was evident in her profound exhaustion and the cold, inhuman clarity in her gaze. She sat at the massive strategy table, poring over the complex, shimmering schematics of the Pale Court's lunar spire. The deposed king, Kael, stood opposite her, a figure of contained aristocratic fury. He was the consort, bound by the curse, forced to serve the woman who had dethroned him. The defenses are tied directly to the moon's phase, Kael began, his voice devoid of warmth, mechanical in its duty. He used his finger, tipped with a faint shadow, to trace the intricate runic network that protected the spire. During the blood moon, which begins in 4 nights, the spire achieves maximum magical density. Lady Maris will be untouchable. If the Moonforged Chalice is not secured before the convergence, the veil will shatter during her final assault. 4 nights, the raven-haired woman echoed, her voice sharp with necessary urgency. And the chalice's exact location. The heart of the spire, Kael confirmed, meeting her chilling gaze. His eyes held a warning. I may be tethered, but I am not yet broken. It is protected by the Lunar Sentinels, the Pale Court's Fey elite. They possess pure volatile light magic. Your shadow power will be ineffective against them. The clash of opposing energies would tear the spire apart, destroying the chalice before you could even reach its vault. We cannot rely on brute force, Queen. Then what is the countermeasure, consort? She challenged, leaning back, deliberately injecting the hated title with cold, absolute steel. Kael's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his skin. The curse, as you now know, demands balance. It is why you still breathe. The Sentinels are sworn to protect the chalice's pure essence. They will allow passage only to a soul that projects the potential for light, regardless of the darkness that shrouds it. They must recognize the mortal woman you were, not the Shadow Queen you are. He took 2 deliberate steps, closing the distance between them until the air was tight with their shared, agonizing magical current. I need you to deliberately dismantle your shield. I need you to open the gateway to the last remnant of your mortal core. I need you to show them the thief, the defiant human driven by loss, not the eternal puppet of the Shadow Court. The raven-haired woman felt a profound primal terror. The curse, after its feast on her defining memory, had constructed a protective mantle of cold power around the vulnerability. To deliberately expose that fragile remnant of humanity, the raw, defiant core, was to present a final, irresistible feast to the shadow hunger. That vulnerability will be their signal, she argued, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. It will be the signal for the curse to devour me completely. It wants the light, Kael. It wants the final consumption. It wants to extinguish the last flicker of myself and remake me entirely as its permanent, empty vessel. It is a calculated risk, one of survival, Kael insisted, his hand hovering near her, restraining the urge to touch her. I will teach you how to mask the exposure, how to draw the light forward only for the Sentinels to register it, and how to snap the veil shut before the curse can feed. But you must trust my guidance, and you must trust the resilience of the thief's heart. Trust, she scoffed, a humorless sound escaping her lips. That is the currency you taught me to discard, consort. Despite her absolute resistance, the grueling preparation began. Kael led her to the deepest training crypts, a series of chambers where the ambient shadow magic was most volatile. The environment was designed to destabilize the host, making the mental exercises exponentially harder. He forced her into punishing, exhaustive meditation sessions, sitting opposite her, their knees nearly touching. He would guide her through the labyrinth of her own psyche, forcing her to confront the emotional wreckage the curse had left behind. The curse took the memory, but it did not take the feeling, Kael would command, his voice echoing in the cold, cavernous space. The drive for vengeance, the human need for justice, the fierce spite that defines you, that is the light that remains. You must isolate that core feeling. The struggle was a torment that transcended physical pain. Every time she reached inward for that pure human spark, the curse within her would erupt, roaring like a starved beast. The shadows in the crypts would writhe, the thorn vine mark burning fiercely as the malevolent entity fought for dominance, trying to overwhelm her with cold, intoxicating power. She would collapse, sweat plastering her raven hair to her temples, gasping, her mind screaming against the invasive voice of the curse, which was a terrifying, distorted echo of Kael's own voice. Yield, little host. Why cling to the dust of memory? Surrender to the absolute. Become absolute. During one such collapse, which left her shaking and breathless, she looked up at Kael, her eyes wide with pain. "You are pushing me toward consumption," she whispered, the raw honesty momentarily silencing the curse. "You want me to be an empty vessel you can command." "I am pushing you toward mastery," Kael corrected, supporting her with a firmness that was both ruthless and essential. "The curse requires a vessel, yes, but it does not demand a slave. It demands a master who knows its nature. I put you on this path. I will ensure you survive it." He stared at her, his voice dropping to a low intensity. "The curse is winning, Elara. Your ruthlessness is no longer strategic calculation. It is becoming instinct. If you do not win this battle of light, if you lose the core humanity I need for this mission, the Shadow Queen will consume the woman entirely, and I will lose the one weapon capable of saving us both." The training continued mercilessly for 2 nights, leaving her utterly depleted. She started to realize Kael wasn't just teaching her to find the light. He was teaching her to lie to the darkness, to project humanity while remaining ruthlessly cold. The night before the mission, the atmosphere was suffocating. The blood moon was a chilling crimson sliver, painting the citadel in unsettling shades of blood and shadow. The time for training was over. They stood in her chambers, the air vibrating with the tension of their magical and emotional tether. Kael, his face drawn with fatigue and internal conflict, held an ancient, dull steel dagger. "We have prepared for every magical defense," Kael began, his voice strained. "But there is one defense the magic cannot bypass: Lady Maris's mind link. She will sense the moment you breach the Spire and attempt to possess you through the curse's binding. If she succeeds, she controls the Shadow Queen, the heart, and Viridian is lost." He laid the dagger on the obsidian table. "If she gains purchase, if her spirit begins to seize your body, the only thing that will break the link is an act of absolute, undeniable, non-magical will. An act so profoundly human, the curse cannot comprehend or replicate it." "What act can defy eternal magic?" the woman demanded, her cold resolve warring with dawning panic. Kael met her gaze, his dark eyes filled with a terrible, desperate sincerity. "You must use your last flicker of human will to hurt the curse's tether, to hurt me. Not with a blast of shadow, but with an act of raw, unadulterated, mortal spite." He walked toward her, slowly, deliberately, exposing his chest where the magical tether linked him to the obsidian heart. "The curse feeds on power and emotional trauma, but it cannot process simple, messy, mortal fury. You must land a blow, a slap, a cut, a wound, driven by pure, uncorrupted human resentment. That violent, emotional discharge will break the Fey link." He reached out and closed his hand over the dagger on the table, then extended it to her. "This is a final, absolute test, Elara. The curse is designed to strip away the capacity for true human emotion. If you can still feel enough raw, selfish spite to wound the man who holds your life, if you can still be the ruthless thief you once were, the link will break.
The raven-haired woman stared at the dull steel of the dagger, her hands shaking. This was the ultimate betrayal, the ultimate sacrifice of the self. To save her soul, she had to commit an unforgivable act of violence against the one person now chained to her survival. You look at me and ask me to save myself by destroying the one thing keeping me anchored, she whispered, her voice cracking. You ask me to use the last bit of my humanity to commit an inhuman act. I ask you to survive, Kael corrected, his voice a desperate plea. I will endure the consequence of your strike, but if you hesitate, Lady Maris will gain control. You will become her puppet, and I will be forced to kill you to save the world. He pushed the dagger handle toward her palm. Take it, Queen, and do not fail to hate me when the time comes. She closed her hand around the cold steel. The touch of the weapon was a greater shock than any shadow blast. It was mortal, simple, and deadly. She looked at Kael, the man who had stolen her freedom and was now sacrificing his own safety for her soul. The Shadow Queen wanted to thank him for the lesson, wanted to analyze the strategic genius of the plan.
But the small, fragile remnant of the thief, the furious, grieving human, was overwhelmed by raw, agonizing resentment. Resentment that he had put her in this position. Resentment that she had lost her memory. Resentment that her survival depended on his vulnerability. She looked at the dagger, then at the man. "Then I will wound the consort," she stated, her voice hardening with cold, final resolve, the emotion fueled by pure, bitter, mortal resentment. "For the sake of the kingdom, and for the last remnant of the woman you captured." She turned, grabbing her thick travel cloak. The blood moon was waiting. "Prepare the transport," she commanded, the authority in her voice absolute, now laced with genuine lethal purpose. "The thief is going to the Spire, and the consort will wait for his punishment." Like, comment, and subscribe to see how the Shadow Queen decides to save her soul, or if she will be lost to the curse forever.